Now, perhaps there are some of you out there that have just heard the remarks made by Benjamin Creme, but you're still not grasping the sheer magnitude, the potency of his statements. Well, let me take a little bit of time to kind of break it down for you so that none of its significance goes over your head, because it's all extremely important. You see, Benjamin Creme and Share International, which represent the New Age movement, and not only this organization and that man, but another organization known as Lucis Trust, which was formerly known as Luzifers Trust, which has its headquarters within the United Nations. As a matter of fact, the very purpose for the existence of the United Nations is to push the agenda of this spiritualist New Age movement and that of the papacy led out by the profligate Pope himself. Well, this high-powered spiritualist occult movement known as the New Age movement, they believe and they vehemently teach that the long-awaited for Christ is Lord Maitreya and not Jesus Christ, whom is the true Son of God. As of January of 2008, stars began to appear in the sky in various places all throughout the world as these occultists predicted, and these stars, according to their predictions, were for a sign that Lord Maitreya was about to begin to make himself manifest amongst humanity. Now, there are those of you out there that may be thinking to yourself, this could not have ever happened. They did this all on a computer. There were never any stars. It's all in somebody's mind. I warn you, do not be deceived. Jesus Christ himself clearly tells us in the book of Matthew chapter 24 that just prior to his second coming, in these last days leading up to the glorious appearing of Jesus Christ, signs and wonders would begin to happen on a large scale all throughout this world for the purpose of deceiving people into receiving counterfeit Christs, even the devil himself, when he counterfeits the second coming of Christ. You heard me right. In the book of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 4, the Bible says, "Take heed that no man deceive you." Then in verse 5 it says, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many." Then the Bible goes on to say in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 14, "And no marvel, for Satan himself, the devil, is transformed into an angel of light." The Bible lets us know in no uncertain terms that the devil, Satan, has the supernatural ability to transform himself into a luminous being, a luminous creature, even to appear as a star. And the purpose for this is to deceive people into receiving him as the Christ, the one who is sent from God, but it's all a counterfeit. Take heed that no man deceive you. Ladies and gentlemen, the devil will counterfeit the second coming of Christ. And according to the statements made by Benjamin Creme, this day, when the devil comes counterfeiting the second coming of Christ, which will deceive the masses, is just upon us, just shortly from the time that you are currently viewing this video. And according to Benjamin Creme, when this man, Maitreya, came on national television in the United States of America and did an interview, it was the first such event ever to take place in this world's history. But this man did not make himself known as Maitreya. He just came as one of us. Doesn't that sound like when Jesus came in the book of John chapter 1 and verse 14, when Jesus says, the Bible says, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld him, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." Jesus came just like another human being, and here the devil is trying to counterfeit every aspect of the manifestation of the true Christ, whom is the Son of God. But if you listened closely to the statements made by Benjamin Creme, you would have realized that he said the reason that Maitreya did not use the title of Maitreya to identify himself is because he is waiting for the time that more people will be ready to respond to him as Maitreya. In other words, the devil is waiting for the time that the humanity, that the masses will be prepared to respond to him or receive him as Christ, which lets us know that currently there must be afoot a deception. There is a process currently underway to prepare the minds of the masses to receive the devil or others that he uses to counterfeit the coming of Christ. Now, what we need to know is, what are these plans, these movements that are going on right now that are to prepare us to receive the devil as Christ? Well, listen to these statements that were made by Benjamin Creme himself. In a publication issued by Shear International, Benjamin Creme stated that because of the law of free will, Maitreya cannot name himself. His discovery depends on the willingness of journalists and others to identify him and receive his message. When, through Christ consciousness in us and our own spiritual intuition, that stage is set, the international radio and television networks will be linked together. We will see his face on the television screen and will hear his appeal telepathically. He will overshadow all humanity simultaneously. Everyone will hear his words in their own language. Hundreds of thousands of spontaneous healings will take place, and humanity will know that this man and only this man is truly the Christ. Notice that Benjamin Creme stated that it is through the Christ consciousness in us and our own spiritual intuition that stage is set. What stage is set? The stage is set for the international radio and television networks to be linked together, for these spontaneous healings that will happen to hundreds of thousands, and all of these other supernatural occurrences that will happen as a point to deceive humanity into believing that Maitreya and only Maitreya is the true Christ, when in actuality Maitreya is nothing more than a manifestation of Satan. Therefore, we know that the teaching of people coming into touch with their inner quote-unquote Christ consciousness is one of the devil's tools to prepare the minds of the masses to be receptive to him, the devil, when he counterfeits the second coming of Jesus Christ. So who in the world is teaching this lie about Christ consciousness?
I've always tried to find a deeper inner connection with the purpose that Christ had here on earth. And all my life, I thought it was just for him to die on the cross for my sins. But I now recognize that Jesus actually taught me Christ consciousness is who to be fully human.
Hello.
Is to be Christ-like.
Yeah.
And so it's not any time that you not follow your spiritual calling that you are lesser of a human.
Yes, I'm Christian too, and I got that a long time ago. I mentioned this also in this book called Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth, where he talks about the Christ consciousness. And up until then, I was like you, Margit. I thought Jesus came, died on the cross, that Jesus' being here was about his death and dying on the cross, when it really was about him coming to show us how to do it, how to be, to show us the Christ consciousness that he had, and that consciousness abides with all of us.
Yes.
That's what I got.
Yes.
That's what I got.
Yes.
Thank you. Margit, we'll be right back.